It is Monday on Daily Delivery. Patrick Reusse with me. I am Michael Rand. Hope you guys are having a good day. Patrick, how are you?
I'm pretty dang good. I got to watch the Super Bowl first time in full living color, just me and my wife together, and her observations made it rather humorous. She's not exactly an expert. The quote of the day was when she wondered why Kyle Shanahan kept looking at that magazine on the sidelines during the game. So it was great to be the. I mean, I don't consider myself the world's leading expert on football, but it was fun watching the game with her because to explain the first downs and stuff like that. That
Yes.
we have to make this. They don't have to score on this play there. They make 3 yards and they get to keep the ball, that kind of stuff. So it was entertaining to say the least, but it was also on display the magic of the NFL.
Yes.
3 quarters, terrible game. San Francisco should have been 17 points ahead.
Yes.
But they ended up not getting that done. And then, lo and behold, the fourth quarter and overtime, and it's going to be one of the great football games ever played. Only the second overtime in 58 years of the Super Bowl, and the first one under the new rules, where both teams get the ball, even if the other team scores a touchdown to start overtime, which is a special playoff. Is that playoff?
I believe that's because the regular season, if it's a field goal, you get the ball, but a touchdown ends it.
Yeah. But in all the playoffs, it's a regular football game, and I think a lot of people were confused yesterday that at the end of the first quarter of overtime, they thought, well, then you kick off over again or something. But no, it's just as they kept repeating, it's just the start of another game.
Right.
So except it's sudden death as far as. Once each team's had the ball, it becomes sudden death, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, it was typical Patrick Mahomes. Don't give him the ball last.
No.
Don't give him the ball last. How about that winning play? I love that play. Just that little 3-yard pass, but I've seen him run it before down on the goal line, and that Hardman comes bursting to the left. And Patrick Mahomes, if you watched him, he kind of had his eyes, but he didn't oversell it. But his eyes were like left, right? It was left, but it wasn't like this dramatic look left. It was like this subtle look left because they didn't want to tip it off too bad. But hey, what are they trying to do here?
Right.
And then Hardman turns around, runs back, and it's wide open, and they throw the 3-yard pass. And the funny thing about it is, Mike, they went quick too. So you're still. I said this on Twitter that you're still feeling bad that you let him get to the 3-yard line and the game's over.
Yeah, exactly.
He's already thrown a touchdown pass and. Won the game. I'll tell you, halfway through the season, watching that Kansas City team, I wouldn't have given you a quarter for their chances to win the Super Bowl.
No,
they did not.
They weren't great. They weren't great. I mean, they had such a hard path too, right? Like they overcame, a tough schedule, and they were didn't have a playoff, and didn't have a bye this year. Like if you can't beat them this year, if you can't beat them this year, when are you going to beat them? And if you can't win this year, if you're San Francisco, when are you going to win?
Yeah, they loaded up. I mean, they brought in Chase Young. They brought in both Randy Gregory and Chase Young during the season to juice up their pass rush. And the first half, Mahomes hardly had any chance against that pass rush. And then all of a sudden, as the game progressed, they lost a little of their pizzazz and they lost their run. I think Shanahan probably is going to get criticized for the fact that they ran the ball so very well the first half, and then they started to shut him down in the second quarter. But he went away from it and didn't go back to it till that last drive in the fourth quarter. Basically, he didn't go back to the running game with McCaffrey. That McCaffrey is a beast, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's been banged up for years, but man alive, he's something. He's fantastic, but Debo kind of took the day off, kept getting hurt, kept leaving the field, and that made a difference too. But it ends up being, oh man, what a game, what a terrific Super Bowl. Now, they were making a big deal after the game. Has anybody won 3 in a row? Did Dallas win 3?
No, I don't think he was won 3 Super Bowls in a row. I think Dallas won like 3 out of 4, right? In the
something like that.
mid-90s, I think.
New England won a bunch of them, but But so that was why they were making such a big deal about three-peat after the game, huh? Something like that.
Nobody's ever done 3 in a row. I think it's like 7 teams maybe have done 2 in a row, like the Steelers, the 49ers, the Packers, certainly, a bunch of other teams have done 2 in a row, but no, nobody's done 3, and now they've got 3 out of the last 5.
We lost 3 out of 4. I don't think, but that's not a record either.
That's different.
That's not a record either because Buffalo lost 4 straight, right? So that's in Buffalo lose 4 straight or 4 out of 5, something like that.
No, it was 4 in a row. It was San Francisco, like they had. You said McCaffrey had a great game, but he lost that fumble on the first drive that changes the whole game. They have, the next drive, Trent Williams has a false start followed by an obvious holding penalty that derails that drive. They have the muff punt. They miss an extra. They get an extra point block.
We forget they gave him the free touchdown when the guy dropped the punt on the 11-yard line. I mean, Kansas City, that was the second half. Kansas City wasn't doing anything.
No.
So, and then all of a sudden they're in the end zone, and then the guy kicks the extra point like he's playing for Hills Beaver Creek. He kicked it about 2 feet off the ground, like a high school kicker. And later he's made 2 booming field goals.
He did,
He kicked that thing off his ankle. It was, and that, they were, so that Kansas City didn't have to chase that point all day long.
Right.
So that hurt too. So, but it was, the Chiefs, they'll be better next year. How about our buddy though, Scandling, whatever the hell is
Marquez Valdez-Scantling?
How about that play when he gets? They get a 5-yard gain, and he decides he's going to bounce off the tackle and turns it into an 8-yard loss.
Yes, that was amazing.
What up? And Mahomes goes and grabs his helmet and says, "What are you doing, you idiot? We want to be second and 5."
Jones on the sideline is like leaping out of his seat, like, "What is going on here? Don't do that!" And they get out of it. Like that's the magic of Mahomes, right? Like he can erase all those mistakes. He gets you out of the box so many times, and not to make it too Viking centric, but like think about like San Francisco had such a good team, and Brock Purdy had a good year. Like he's a good quarterback. He's a perfectly good quarterback, but you have all that going for you, and you still can't win. Like what does that tell you about where all these other teams are at? It's exactly why everybody's chasing a quarterback, right? Like it's in today's game, you gotta have that. It's just one more reason why you can't stay with Cousins anymore. You gotta try something else. You gotta see if you can find, if not your Mahomes, which is once in a generation, someone who is closer to that can help you win a game like that. Because it's just like, the Vikings are half the team that San Francisco is. They've got half of what they've got, and I know they beat them this year. They played well in that game, but I don't know. It's just it's maddening to think about them trying to do this again with Cousins, because they just don't have the overall roster to even think that could work.
That's true. You did mention Chris Jones, and he'll go along, and then he makes plays that win games.
Yes.
He puts that last rush on Purdy, and they have to end up kicking a field goal, and that's the ball game right there. He held out start of the year, didn't play the first 2-3 games, something like that.
Yep.
And he doesn't look like this chiseled guy. He's a huge guy. He looks a little chubby, and but all of a sudden, when you need to he's kind of the Mahomes of defense for them. He makes this ungodly play just when they need it the most. But thing about him is, I've seen him this year, even when early in the year they weren't good, but even later on when they started playing good, they still had lousy first halves. And it's they get in there and figure something out at halftime. But again, as you point out, they did give him a free touchdown when they dropped the punt. So, what was that guy? Oh, they hit the one guy backing up, man. Yeah, they San Francisco's got wake up this morning saying, "How did we lose that game?
Yeah.
We were the best. We were the best team, and we got beat. That's got to make you feel bad."
Yeah, I mean, they were the best team in that game. They're one of the best teams all year. Like I saw, like advanced stats wise, like they're the last, I think they're the two teams that the Shanahan's had that lost the Super Bowl. They were like the second and third best teams in NFL history that in terms of teams that didn't win the Super Bowl that made it that far. And it's just like, man, like what do they have to do differently? I mean, is it just one game? Is it the quarterback? Like what's going on that they can't finish it? But they've got to be so frustrated because you're right.
They gotta feel like they gave it away though. They
do.
They dropped the punt. McCaffrey of all people had the fumble right off the bat when they were just moving. They came out. They were just moving the ball. They were going to go right in and down and score a touchdown. And it's the NFL has become a league that there's week after week you watch these games and they're terrible, but with 4 minutes to go, you don't know who's going to win. So everybody loves it.
That's all you remember, right? That's all you remember.
Yeah, this game. Oh, yeah, it was like 3/4. It was as bad as any game you could ever watch. It was like it was like the Gophers in Iowa in football. What I said it was like the Gophers in Iowa without the crazed replay official. It was the same game. And then all of a sudden it's one of the most memorable Super Bowls of all time. I was thrilled to be at this great game.
Right.
Does that Hunt kid, Clark Hunt, does he come off like the great super? Did you watch the post game at all?
I only watched a little bit. This is it's the magic in our household. My wife has talked about this for decades now. I almost always have to walk a dog right after a game ends. So it's like I watch like 1 or 2 minutes of the post game, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go walk the dog, and then we're gonna go to bed. So
Clark Hunt comes off as the one of those smooth, smarmy guys that is the reason NFL ownership is drives you nuts because I was privileged to be at this game today afterwards and blah blah blah. So it was another one. I'm sure they had. By the fourth quarter, they probably had the most fantastic viewership of all time.
And we had Taylor. Taylor gets the win.
Taylor gets the win. Yeah, they didn't overdo Taylor. I don't think. No. I don't think the Taylor critics can be too unhappy. But of course, I had to say on Twitter how I love a great love story, and it just makes me a little misty, to see this. And, he is an interesting big old lug. He did nothing. He had one catch for 1 yard the first half. At the end of the third quarter, he probably had one catch, and then all of a sudden he made about 6 catches down the stretch. Right,
bumped into Andy Reid. That was some of the controversy too. They were saying that he's mad because they took him off the field. They keep taking him off the field. And the tight end they put in the block got Mahomes sacked there. And it's funny, though. Every time he catches a pass, they take him out of the game. He's over on the sideline drinking water. I don't know. Yeah. I guess it must be the next play. He's not in on it or something. But, that was a bad look. But, I think Andy – with his stars has that kind of relationship where you can scream at each other and but he's an easy guy to cheer for, Andy. All he's been through with his kids and his life and getting fired in Philly because he couldn't win the big game, and then he ends up going there, and now they've won 3 and he's doing TV ads, and he's become a national celebrity. So good for him. Now we can breathlessly turn our attention to the Vikings offseason. I mean, nothing's going to be settled for a while here. Although, what you keep hearing is the Vikings kind of need to. If the Vikings don't want Cousins to get to free agency, if they're going to sign him, right? Like if they're going to keep him, which I don't think they should, but if they're going to keep him it's going to happen in the next few weeks before free agency starts, before the new league year gets going, because otherwise another team gets a crack at him. It's easier to kind of figure out the void years on his contract before the new league year starts, stuff like that. So this would happen fairly quickly, you would think, if it's going to happen.
Yeah, he's been out campaigning, man. He's been trying to make himself, and that Netflix thing did wonders for him. And he's now a national celebrity, and that's all that's doing is driving up the price of poker, man. It's the idea that he's gonna, you can maybe sign him to some contract that's back ended, and then you can be paying for it for years after he's done here, right? But
Right.
As far as if you're, you can put the money out there for 5 years afterwards and try to you got to sign Jefferson first, don't you? I don't know.
That's the one you got to take care of first.
You got to sign Jefferson and then see. And I saw something. Did Jefferson say this, or they just get it secondhand through the agent or something, that he's looking to break the bank with this contract? So I don't know where that comes from.
I don't think he would say that. He's never said anything like that. He's been pretty diplomatic about that all. I think he made some of the rounds during Super Bowl week, but I can't imagine he would have said that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that. That's just a headline, but just who knows? I don't. What you see online now, you can't even read it anymore. You can't pay any attention to it because, half of it is as I said, if you go on YouTube, you can find out all these guys who have died who are still alive because they want you. Right. They want you to hit their site and give them some hits. So right. It's hard to say, but I don't know. Yeah, you and I are both on the. That's enough, Kirk. Thanks.
Yeah.
And go somewhere where you can win. Sure. Let's see if you got it. Right. Let's see if you're surrounded. You had a 13-4 team. You had you had a couple pretty good teams here, and it never happened. So go somewhere and prove it. Prove that you're this phenom that anti-vaxxers think you are.
Grand Casino would like to take a moment and salute the true football fan. The passion, the hope, the anticipation, that incomparable feeling of winning. Grand Casino would also like to take a moment to remind you that you can find all that anticipation, thrill, and winning at Grand Casino. Grand Casino, let your story begin.
At the start of the show here, you almost slipped up and said Rose Bowl instead of Super Bowl, and I don't know if that was the PJ Fleck conversation we were having going before we started recording or what it was. But let's shift our attention now to the kind of 24, 48 hour story we had over the weekend where.
Was it that long?
24 hours maybe. Chip Kelly goes to Ohio State, bails out on being a head coach at UCLA to be an offensive coordinator at Ohio State.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yes, that's happened a few times this offseason, but that is something else.
So Chip's telling you, we had no chance here to win at UCLA. I'm getting out of here. And then Brett McMurphy, who isn't really Pete Thamel is usually PJ's Bobo, right? He's the one trying to get him contracts usually. But McMurphy, was he the first guy to throw it out there?
I can't remember if it was him or there was two pretty close succession. I can't remember.
Leading candidate was PJ Fleck, right. And you look at it and say, "Oh, UCLA." Well, then you start looking at UCLA. Okay, Chip Kelly left. Why? Right. And then you look, and they're in terrible financial shape. Their athletic programs in terrible financial shape. Their football, their basketball. Now they've had a little winning streak now, but they have no NIL money at UCLA for basketball.
Which is
of all the places.
How is that possible? I just have assumptions about UCLA that were totally shattered in the course of trying to figure this all out.
Yeah, well, the state college, I think the state colleges in general in California are in financial disrepair. And, Cal's in terrible shape. And UCLA, who the Big Ten warmly welcomes, probably because they wanted Southern Cal and they'll take the other one. But I was watching one of their basketball games about 3-4 weeks ago, and Walton, in his own crazy style, was doing the game. and he was making fun of the UCLA program, how nobody goes to the games anymore. They had a half a full house, and how terrible it basically was. Kept making these jokes about how bad a shape the program was in and how they don't play any defense, and now they've won a few in a row there. But the fact that UCLA basketball is not being tremendously funded. Southern Cal has always had, it's a private school,
right,
and it's always had the big cigars, as Sid used to call them. They've got alums that really care about football, and UCLA. I think UCLA's basketball crowd is kind of like the Gophers, age-wise, old.
Okay. Yeah,
and I don't think they care anymore, and football, it's not a good job. It's not a good job. He's got a better job here. He's making $6 million, and Coyle will turn around and give him another $500,000 for this phony baloney deal. That hey, we saved him. We can give. I just got myself a 3-year extension, so so we can give him another extension and get him up there to $6.5 million a year, and get the buyout. And plus, the thing is, and you pointed this out when we were exchanging texts last night, he's got a $7 million buyout. UCLA is not picking up a $7 million buyout. No. They never were going to pick up a 7-year-old buyout, and he sure as hell isn't going to pick it up, being the cheapo he is. So, he wants it all. And but his agent, I don't know who his agent is, but his agent's a genius. He gets him in what basically I can see those two guys having a meeting at the end of the year. I mean, he's 5-7, and people are ripping him, and he's saying, we got to get these people back feeling great about me. Right. I know. First job that opens up that we got a chance. Let's throw it out there, and then I'll release a statement saying I'm committed to the Gophers. They'll give me another raise, and the people will be glad to have me again. Yep. And so it'll work well. So
I like that theory. I mean, it feels like the kind of thing where if this would have happened for some reason, let's say like none of these theories are true and he would have gone, it would have been to the detriment of both Fleck and the Gophers, right? Like whatever we think of Fleck, the Gophers would have been in worse shape if he leaves. Like he's done enough here in the short term. At least they would have been a rebuild. It would have been hard to figure out, okay, well, where do they go from here? Things have already started to get hard. They don't have the NIL, even if they say they're getting better, and Fleck's going to a bad situation. So it didn't make sense. Like some other job might make sense, right? Like if he's going to go somewhere, like now is kind of the time, because you could see it kind of start to slip here, but.
Well, the bad thing about it is that it opens up the transfer. You got another transfer portal window coming up, and UCLA is going to UCLA is going to lose 20 players because Chip's gone.
Right.
So it would have been the Gophers lost. All of a sudden, the running back who was fully committed to Minnesota to staying here is going to be with us because he's signed for Dinkytown. He's you're going to lose 50. What would have hurt you is the transfer portal that would win this. People just they lose a coach. They got these deals with them. They got these relationships with them. They think they got them in their pocket, and they immediately go to the transfer portal and see what's out there. Some of them come back, but most of them go to the transfer portal. So that's what would have hurt the Gophers. Not that they couldn't have hired a good coach at $6 million a year, but the fact that the players who are they want certainty, and Fleck was their certainty, and if you lose him, then you got uncertainty. So they hit the portal and take off. It's a Chip leaving at this time is just a disaster for them. But everybody thought he was going to get fired if they had a bad year anyway. I was reading something from like a UCLA's version of the Gopher Hole, right? And they are completely pessimistic about the season ahead. They, the UCLA's coming here October 12th, and when you're looking at it, you're saying, oh, man, Southern Cal and UCLA back-to-back. And then you start reading, well, the Gophers will be a 10-point favorite over UCLA probably. So,
It's a prestige program in name only at this point, I guess is how we would say it. They just don't have much going for them. So yeah, once you dug into it, it didn't make as much sense. You're like, oh, initially like, yeah, UCLA, maybe he'd want to go there. And now you look at it, you're like, it's a step down, more or less. It's not as good of a job, at least.
It's a worse job. And as I said, at Minnesota, your field house is 400 yards from your stadium. At UCLA, your field house is 27 miles from your stadium, and so and you go over to the Rose Bowl. Nice ballpark. I've been there a few times. I love it, but you get 30,000 people most weeks, and that's a 100,000 seat stadium. That doesn't create too great an atmosphere.
No.
So anyway,
let's move on. Talk Gopher basketball
by the way, people think that I was kind of suggesting I was rooting for him to leave. No. It's like when Denny Green got fired. I'm very unhappy, man. I would have been very unhappy if he left. He's
your muse. He's your muse. He's your source of inspiration.
You can slip in that, you're halfway through a column and you're thinking, can I slip a PJ cheap shot in here somehow? Or how am I going to do this? It's, it keeps my mind fresh, thinking up stuff. So, I don't want him to leave. I want him to stay.
Yeah, that's funny. Gopher men's basketball, they had a chance yesterday. They were 6-5 in the Big Ten going into the game at Iowa. Took a big lead against the Hawkeyes. I think they're up like 19 or 20 sometime in that game.
1 point, I think.
Yeah, and they end up
maybe 22. I don't know.
End up losing 90-85. They stopped making shots. Iowa has a big rally. That one, Patrick, that one hurts because you feel like that one. You win that one, you're 7-5, and then it's like, okay, well, there's a realistic path to maybe making it to the tournament.
You're fourth in the league if you win that one. You're fourth in the league. Here's the deal. The first half, yes, you can watch the first half and say they played great. Well, one reason they played great is they made all their shots. Yeah. Carrington was fantastic. He made 4 threes. He hasn't made 4 threes all year. I like him. He's very good defensively. But did they make 8 threes? They
made a lot. They couldn't miss.
The first half, they were bombing it, running. And they were, I was terrible on defense, and they were getting layups and beating them down the court. And in the second half, the big guy, Payne, he sat for a long time in the first half because he gets dumb fouls. And then the second half, he comes out and they put it back on the floor and he gets fouls. And then Garcia leaves. He gets, it appeared that he got hurt and kicked in the twilight zone there at the but it was something else. I don't know. It was I've heard 2 theories that it was that he appeared to be holding his left hand, like something happened, and then the other one that he might have a hamstring or something. But he just sat there and didn't come back, and then Payne's in foul trouble. They never play Ola Joseph anymore.
No, what happened there?
I don't know what that deal is. I like that kid. He's out of here. He'll be a transfer, but they stopped playing him for some reason. And then they had Parker Fox in there, and they like Parker Fox, and he's the Energizer Buddy and all that crap. But he has no chance against this Freeman guy, who's this big moose from young freshman from Iowa, who's probably going to be the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. And he just knocked him out of the way and dunked him on him, and he kind of got it going. But they got sloppy with the ball at the end of the first half that kind of gave Iowa a little hope. And then Garcia threw one away at the end of the first half that was stupid. And then the second half, they were awful. And Hawkins went insane, driving all over the place and driving. And but they lost their inside game. So they basically, the only thing they could do is dribble a ball around out on the perimeter and then throw up a shot, and they stopped making shots. When you don't have to make shots, they're easy to make, right?
Right.
And we were in the first half. There was no pressure. Everything was going great. Second half, here comes Iowa. You're up, all of a sudden you're up 8, then you're up 6, and then you're up 5, and they're not giving you anything inside. they're letting you shoot those open threes still, but they're harder to make. And then you start missing them, and you're not a great shooting team anyway. But it was a terrible loss, and now they gotta find out if Garcia is going to miss some time here or not, or because I think Ben Johnson's quote I saw on Marcus's story was he didn't think it was serious.
Yeah.
Well, if it wasn't serious, why the hell wasn't he playing?
Yeah.
I want it to be serious. It better be serious.
Serious enough. Yeah. He's serious enough that you had to miss that time, because that was a big
enough that he couldn't play the second half.
Big moment. So. Yeah, look at that. They got at Purdue next. That's
they Garcia can take that game off just so he's ready for the next one. They can just mail that one in and get beat by 30 and get on with life after that, because they got home games they can win. They could. I thought they'd beat Iowa and then win their 4 home games and lose their 4 road games, but they're obviously they let the Iowa game get away. So I don't think there's any path to the NCAA now unless
you'd have to go on a bigger run.
If you win a quarterfinal game in the Big Ten tournament, but now you got to do that. That was there would have been some excitement back home. You win that game. But now it's back to everybody who watched that game had a sick feeling, So it was an awful loss.
And it would have been a complete washout of a day in Iowa if they would have lost that game, because the women, Caitlin Clark, they lost that game to Nebraska.
And they had a big lead apparently at Nebraska. Yes. But the world has changed, Michael. Iowa, that place couldn't have been half full yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, they show the second deck up there. It's actually one deck, but it goes way up. And, then they got an aisle, so it kind of separates. But it's a huge place, and they showed it upstairs, and there was nobody there. They had I don't know what they announced, but it looked like 10,000 max. Caitlin plays, the place is full.
Yeah.
And it was absolute stone quiet the entire first half.
Yeah.
And then the Gophers. So it was a easy atmosphere, and they ended up letting it get away. So
Royal Credit Union's Smart Checking accounts offer no monthly fees and no minimum balance. Enjoy financial freedom when you open your Royal Credit Union Smart Checking account online at rcu.org/go-checking. Insured by NCUA.
Let's finish up with some Twins. You're down in Florida. You caught up with Cantorino the other day. I saw you wrote about Austin Martin.
All of us in the media are rooting for the arrival of Matt Cantorino by the middle of the summer. That lad can talk, but he'll give you the good quotes. He's smooth and a good kid, and they were really hot in him. I kind of wrote about it in 2021, and he was in camp here, and they were thinking maybe before the end of the season, and now he had the bad forearm in 21. He only pitched 23 innings, and then in 22 he still had the bad forearm. He pitched some, but then he got Tommy John, and so he's been in the organization since 2019, and he's pitched 85 innings in the minor leagues. So it's now time to actually pitch. They'll probably start him at AA, maybe AAA. I don't know, but they still like him as a good, because they've kept him on a 40-man through all these injuries. But it is funny, though, when these rehab guys they have down here, they come down here and they make them stay down here for months. He's been here for basically a year. Wow. And Patrick was down here and was kind of his role model. And anyway, then Austin Martin is, to me, everybody say they got to re-sign Michael Taylor, and he was okay, but I don't think that's a good use of your money. I mean, you got the Martin kid. See if you can put Willie Castro in center field if Buxton can play a couple of days a week. But if let the Martin kid's 25 years old, he runs. He's just learning to play. I mean, he's just starting to play center field
right
full time now. But he was a center fielder when in his youth, and his versatility was playing second, short, and center. But he can run like crazy. See if he can. I'd play him 5 innings every game this spring down here and see if he can play center field or not, because he could be your answer. I just don't see when you got athletes like this already in your organization and they're 25 years old. It's time to find out. Come on. So,
yeah. Well, and he's number 5 overall pick, right? He was part of the Barrios trade. Him and Simeon Woods Richardson were the two big prizes from that. I don't know if Woods Richardson's going to make it or not, but you got to find out about Martin. You're right. He's probably 25 is about the age where you're not like past your prospect time yet, but these guys lost basically a whole year with COVID. Like that was.
Yes, that is. Everybody's behind schedule because of that. A lot of unless you were, Juan Soto or something like, some phenomenon who was, of course, he was a phenomenon before they missed the year. But, unless you're Bobby Witt Jr. or something who's going to get there right away. Yeah, those guys that missed the year, it's the top prospects, but not the certain 100% prospects. All are a year late, basically, because of that miss year.
Well, that makes... you're right. Royce Lewis fits into that top prospect category, but it does make what he's done when healthy all the more impressive because he missed so much time. And then for him to just step in and do what he does, that's impressive.
Yeah. They traded Jorge and they traded Nick Gordon for a left-handed pitcher. I saw that. I saw people were ripping that. Really? You want to see more Nick Gordon? Okay. That's they're giving him a chance to go and maybe make the club in Miami because he wasn't going to make the club here, I don't think. So, yeah, we'll see if they're done or not. It's very funny that they keep adding these relief pitchers. So,
yes.
Endless relief pitchers.
Yes.
And what they need is starters.
Yes.
Not relief pitchers, but they're adding all these relief pitchers. What it does mean is Louis Varland's a starter, right?
I was just going to ask you, what do you think of Louis now? Where does he fit in?
He's got to be a starter, right?
I would think so. At least that's where he begins the year, right? Like they just don't have enough rotation depth otherwise.
No, they don't. Otherwise, and here's the deal. I keep talking about it. You go into the season, you got a stud, Lopez. You got Joe Ryan. He had about 6 bad weeks, right? But he's okay. He's good. Then you got Chris Paddock, who's you think he's going to stay as your number 3 all year?
Him.
Yeah, I know, but he's gonna pitch 110 innings. 120. He's not going to all of a sudden pop up and pitch 170 innings, and then after
Bailey Ober,
who's he's okay. I like him, but he hit the wall last year and had to take a couple of weeks out of the rotation, and then Louis. So they need about 3 more starters because this is going to be. I keep saying this could be that year you need 8.
Yeah.
Last year they lost Malley, but everybody else pitched. They went through the whole season with the same guys. That doesn't happen anymore in modern, because they got those MRI machines back there, and if a guy's got a twitch, they're gonna find it, and everybody ends up in rehab. And I think the real concern with this team is they're going to need 8 starting pitchers, and they got 4.5 right now.
Yeah, so. I think their top 4 are a passable top 4, led by a really good first one. And then, and they got the guy, they made that trade, the Polanco trade, they got a guy who could be a 5th starter. So they're, plus Varland, plus anybody else.
That guy hasn't pitched for 2 years, though. DeSclafani or whatever it is.
DeSclafani, yeah.
Yeah, he's a body, but how about the record they've had with bad elbows isn't too great, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Yes, they've not done well with the.
And
they must have a different MRI than some of the other teams do.
Yes. They're very generous in signing guys who've been hurt. So when they have had no luck with guys who've been hurt, now we'll see if they have luck with Paddock or not. Yeah. Boy, their faith in Paddock, though, man alive. They basically paid him for 2 years not to pitch. So
yeah, well, I think they could see this year coming. They knew that we're not going to have Sonny Gray unless they found some magic money somewhere, and they were like, well, what are we going to do? And that's the answer. So yeah, we'll see. Well, pitchers and catchers report later this week.
Wednesday,
starting to feel like baseball.
Catchers. Yes, it is. And I got to warn you, people coming down to spring training this year, if you're going to a 1:00 game at the Boston Park on Daniels Parkway going that direction, leave now. The traffic is unbelievable down here on Daniels Parkway.
Is it
a lot
why?
I think the population has exploded down here.
People heading to dinner at 1? Is that where they're going? I don't know.
Yesterday I timed it. I had to do my traditional. We're on a road back into the jungle, basically here. Okay. There's a big Catholic church on that road, and it's 2 lanes going out. So every year I get down here, I have to look up mass times, not because I'm going to go, but because I got to see when everybody else is going so I can then get through and get home. And then so they had a 9:15. So you got to leave at 9:15 and you got to be back by 10. You got to come, wherever you're going, it's got to be quick because you don't want to hit the traffic because there's a lot of old Catholics down here and they're still mass goers and God love them. That's great.
So, what would the nuns say, Patrick? What would the nuns say?
They would say, we didn't have much hope for you in the first place. So that's what they would say. That's why we kicked you out of Altar Boys when you were 11. You and Daniel Weigert and get kicked out of Altar Boys when you were 11. So anyway, we knew what was coming, they'd say.
We knew it was coming. Can't stop what's coming. Well, that's
right.
That's as good a place to end as any, Patrick. Appreciate it as always, and we'll check in next week. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to get to then. So have a good time in Florida until then.
All righty. Congratulations to Patrick Mahomes. It was another, don't give him the ball last. That is the moral of the story.